So we've made it through the first two videos, and I hope that you see that information overload has been an ongoing issue for a long time. It isn't just a new problem that we're facing today, though certainly the internet has changed the way that people look for information, as well as how much information is available to us. For that reason, we need to know how to find that good information. At the end of the last video, I asked you to think about an information community that you're a part of, or an information need that you have. I want you to keep that information community or information need in the back of your mind as we work through the content in the next series of videos. In this video, I want you to think about two important questions. What level of expertise or knowledge do you have about your information community or your information need? Are you a beginner? Would you consider yourself an intermediate? Or would you even consider yourself an expert on this topic? Next, I want you to think about a Google search that you might conduct about your community or information need. And what does that search look like? If you're slightly confused, don't worry. I'm going to show you two real examples of information communities and information needs that I have in my everyday life. Throughout these next few videos, I'm going to use these two examples of real searches that I've done over the past year where I have two very different levels of expertise. My first information need was to purchase a new digital camera. In this example, I had very little knowledge about cameras and photography prior, so I consider myself a beginner. My second example is a bit different. I'm a gamer and I often have to look up information about the games that I play. Remember, I said to pick a community or information need that you're interested in. Throughout these videos, I'll look at a game that I play called World of Warcraft, which I have played since around 2004, and for that reason, I'd consider myself an expert in that community. In my first example, I was looking for information about purchasing a new digital camera. As I mentioned, I consider myself a beginner in terms of my photographic knowledge. For a long time, I simply used the camera on my phone to take photographs, but I wanted to learn more about photography. For this reason, I decided to purchase a dedicated camera with more manual settings so I could learn more about composing photographs, lighting, post-editing, etc. So I did what a lot of beginners or someone new to a topic does. I Googled some information. Without a lot of knowledge about digital cameras, I conducted a very simple Google search. What digital camera should I buy? As you can see, my simple search is very general, and I have over 1 billion results. Let's just quickly open up one of these websites and see if they can be any help. We can see that there are many different types of digital cameras. This was something that I knew, but to be honest, didn't fully understand. So, for me to fully understand what camera I should buy would require me to do some additional background research before I could move forward. To do this, I might have to consider secondary searches, which might require me to use some of the information that I found in my initial search. What digital camera should I buy? More specific searches might include something like, what is the difference between an SLR versus mirrorless camera? Or what is the difference between a full frame versus crop frame camera? It's okay to have to do more than one search when looking for information. Oftentimes, the results that you retrieve from your initial searches can be used in future searches. Like my example before, I had to do my simple broad search as it introduced me to vocabulary and concepts that I didn't know prior to that initial search. That said, when I moved into an information need that I was an expert in, my search changed. Let's look at an example Google search when it's a topic that I consider myself an expert in. So here's my search. BIS Pre-Raid Shaman Resto Gear TBC Classic. As an expert in World of Warcraft, you can see that my search vocabulary changes. It's less general and more specific. For someone who isn't a gamer or doesn't play WoW, my Google search might seem extremely confusing. That's because the vocabulary in my search is very specific to the gaming, and more specifically the World of Warcraft community. But if you were a member of this community, it would make sense. Let's just quickly break down what my search stands for. BIS stands for Best in Slot and refers to the gear that is typically considered the most powerful for the various armor slots that your character has, for example helmets, gloves, and boots. Pre-raid is the equipment available to you before you start taking on certain game content. Pre-raid typically refers to a phase in the game before moving on to that harder content. Shaman refers to the class or character that I play, and Resto is an abbreviation for the specialization that my character is within the game, Restoration. TBC Classic refers to the version of the game that I'm playing. Again, this is another abbreviation, which is the Burning Crusade Classic. Now, let's jump into one of my results that my search retrieved. As an expert in this community, I know that this website, Wowhead, is often a reliable source for information, and I have come to recognize the resource over years of being involved in the community. If we look at this article on the website, it is quite detailed and provides a lot of information. To people not familiar with this, again, it might be overwhelming, and quite frankly, it probably won't make a lot of sense. As you can see, the searches I conducted between my two information needs are very different. When I was a beginner, my search was very basic and required me to do a little bit more background research before I could fully answer my question. When I was an expert, my search was much more precise. I use very specific language because I know what language this community uses. Although the two examples we looked at today weren't necessarily academic in nature, the searches that we do in academia can follow similar trends. We all have different levels of expertise on different topics. I want you to revisit the two questions I presented earlier and apply them to your own information community or information need. Once you've watched this video, please respond to the discussion board post that unlocks with this video and answer the following two questions. What level of expertise or knowledge do you have about your information community or information need? Are you a beginner, an intermediate, or would you consider yourself an expert? And also, think about a Google search you might conduct about your information community or information need, and what does that search look like? Once you've posted on the discussion board, it'll unlock the next video. In that video, we'll look at ways we can start to evaluate information.